Gather, veterans. It's time to join the fight. The long war begins.
This is The Long War. I'm Robbie B, and joining me once again are my partners in crime, Kenny Boucher and Mike Haspel. What's up, guys?
Yo, dog, good to be here.
Not so bad.
Not so bad. So I have a confession to make. I accidentally ate some paper today.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, it was a little rough. Because as you know, I cannot eat bread. So when I go...
paper is basically carbohydrates and gluten.
Yeah,
That's a problem.
It doesn't have a plastic wax coating or anything to hold in the meats.
Was it organic paper, though?
I mean, obviously. It was high quality Circle K gas station paper.
So not like ancient Egyptian, like papyrus paper? Was that what
Papyrus.
Papyrus paper?
Papyri.
Nope, I think it was just like, hot and fresh paper. It said on the side, like, sizzle.
How much gluten did it touch before you touched it?
It didn't touch any because that's my thing. I'm a little bit of a hobo when it comes to when I go to a gas station and I see like some sweet meats on the little rollers. I'm like, dang, I really want that like
roller
hot dog.
jerky. Good stuff.
Oh yeah. And I'm like, but I can't have a bun. So what do? I just get the little sleeve that normally you put the little churro or whatever, the little fried thing in, which
paper
I can't
is
eat.
Not a bun.
And I put the hot dog or whatever in it, and I'm like, cool. Now I don't have to like hold the meat while I like devour it.
So the more dick like the food experience is for you, the better.
But sometimes I mess up and I get so carried away eating it.
I am visualizing you eating this thing. Yes.
And I came up from air and I realized that I had eaten some of the paper, and I was like,
coming up for air, find something in your mouth you didn't expect in your mouth. That happens to the best of us.
I know it does. So that's my confession for the day. Good news is
I see Haspel back there, like just shaking his head at me and just grim disapproval.
Yep. We're going to prison, all of us.
So we got a lot to talk about tonight. We would have liked to talk about some actual facts, but we're going to talk about fact fears. But that aside, there's still a lot actually happening in tabletop market world. This week, actually, if you're into the Star Wars, if you haven't been completely off put by all the banter and all the movies and all the SJW stuff, and you still actually play with toys and keep the hobby real, well, Star Wars Legion has 2 releases this week. The Scout Bikers, or the Scout Squad for the Imperials, and Boba Fett will be out. So everybody finally gets a Boba Fett miniature. How cool is that?
I feel like you know my thoughts on this.
Yeah, without having to send away for a proof of purchase. 5 proofs of purchases get you a Boba Fett.
Did you have to do that back in the 70s or whatever year?
Yes, I did. And it got stolen after my mom told me not to bring it to a show and tell, and I brought it anyway, and some kid lifted it. And I'm traumatized.
I'm about to say, that was some realness.
I mean,
Thanks for bringing that up.
I'll spy you, man. I think I actually have Boba Fett.
I'm sorry for you, bro, and I will find one on eBay for you.
I've got multiple.
Rob's like, I got 6. Haspel's like, I got 6. Like,
I only got 1, but it's vintage 70s. It's only touched my hands.
But what if your hands touch? You can't get, no, fuck it.
Since the 70s, a lot.
Yeah.
At least 2 things. So Boba Fett and Scout Troopers are coming out this week. Anyways, also coming out from Games Workshop, or at least going on pre-order, is yet more Kill Team. That's right. We've got Kill Team coming out. So we've got the Advanced Team Star Pulse, which is the TOW. The Towers. Towers are $60 US. Comes with some of the, hey, you guys remember the Wall of Martyrs?
I do.
Well, the Wall of Martyrs is also coming back. So it's going to come with part of the Wall of Martyrs, the Wall Martyrs, in the box with the TOW, $60 US. Also the Necron version of it for $60 US. The Wall Martyrs Kill Zone set, which is all the Wall Martyr terrain, for $80.
Is it literally called Wall Martyr, or are we just short?
Wall of Martyrs. Wall of Martyrs.
Wall of Martyrs.
So like people died on that wall.
Probably.
Yeah, and there's like embedded side. We're gonna go on a little side segue right now. So there's in that model, there's like people buried in the wall, like decomposing people and skeletons and stuff. And when that first came out, people were saying, "Oh, this is unrealistic that people would live or fight in, bastions or whatever in trenches where there's, bodies of their friends and stuff in there." Well, that comes from the British psyche being really traumatized and locked in by World War One. And that actually was the case on World War One battlefields like Passchendaele, and places like that, where you were there for a year and you couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't move anywhere. So you couldn't bury the bodies. There was no burial details. There was nothing. So if somebody got killed going over the wall, they're there now, like 6 feet from the trench, And if you're filling up sandbags with dirt, there's parts of your buddies going into those sandbags. Like, that's just the way it is.
Damn, Hasbro, I'm like thinking too, is like I'm in this trench for a year. I'm putting sandbags on the wall, and I'm just like making eye contact with this dead guy for like a year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I would be fucked.
Yeah.
Like, my brain would be fucked.
World War One, don't get much more real, man. You can't go anywhere.
That was your buddy you had coffee with, like, a year ago in that morning.
And he's still there. And you get to see him decompose until they blow the whistle and it's your turn to go over the top.
Yep.
So yeah,
savage stuff. So Wall of Martyrs, $80 US. The 2 sets of Kill Team Terrain, Necrons and Imperial for $12.50 each, and yet another starter box bundle deal from Games Workshop. Wake the Dead comes. It's $150, very similar to Tooth and Claw. If you like, Primaris Marines, and what did that come with? Oh, Gene Stealer Call. If you like more Primaris Marines, it didn't come in that other box. It's actually a good deal. And some Eldars. You want to split it with a buddy.
What is it? What is this box called?
Wake the Dead.
Wake the Dead? Break it down. Do you have a price breakdown for this yet?
It's like 300.
300 value?
Yeah.
For the normal 150?
Yep.
So it's over 3 or under 3?
It's like 296 or something.
So it's not quite as good as deals these other ones, right?
No, I think Tooth and Claw was like closer to, I forget. I have to pull it.
It was
up.
over 3 for sure.
It was definitely over 3. Yeah, I think so. Yep. So, but either way, it's a great deal. It comes with Primaris Marines. It didn't come in the other one, and a bunch of Eldars that are also super useful. Everybody's, if you haven't seen an Eldar army these days, well, they usually have a Wave Serper in too. But, and an exclusive new Lieutenant model for Primaris and a Spirit Sphere model for the Eldar. So for $150, I don't think they're getting any specific rules besides the ones they already have currently in their books. But either way, you know how these bundle deals work. The cheaper you can get it, the more of a deal. You have to spend money to save money, folks. This is how it works.
Well, my girlfriend, Bonet, would agree with you. She's like, look how much money I saved. I'm like, but you literally spent $150. But I saved money. No. Mm-hmm. We are minus 150. So that's the mentality though. Like, you feel like you're saving money. Don't get it twisted. I'm probably gonna buy like 8 of these boxes for personal reasons. I
mean, yeah, personal use. I got a script.
Definitely not gonna break down these boxes into nice little neat $50 piles and send them to anybody.
I would never do that either. Not to anybody on Patreon. Nope, never. Yeah, Dan Carlisle's somebody in chats, Hardcore History, Dan Carlisle. If you haven't heard it already, you should really be listening to that podcast. Best podcast of Apple.
Do you mean Dan Carlin?
Carlin.
Yeah. Dan Carlin, yes. Amazing podcast series. It's been going on for years. So that is the big stuff for Tabletop Marketplace. Just a gamer tabletop service announcement. There is a Magic pre-release this weekend. So if you plan on going down to your local game store, make sure you call ahead because there might be a lot more folks there that you weren't planning on, because Magic is still a thing, as we are about to talk about. Haspel, do you got any Tabletop Market Watch?
It's not Tabletop Market Watch, but it kind of is. So if you play a lot of computer games, there's a computer game company out there called Telltale Games, and they made adventure games, kind of like the old King's Quest and Police Quest, where it was like kind of point and click with your mouse. They were really known for Back to the Future. They made a game of that. They made a really solid Game of Thrones game, and then they're really known for their Walking Dead. Their Walking Dead game made me cry at the end. It was so good. It was better than anything on the show. And unfortunately, it looks like they have let go of everybody but 25 employees, and they are done.
Wait, is that the Walking Dead game? Like where it's that you could? Well, it's like almost like frame for frame, and only mild combat situations, and it starts with like a young girl and a guy.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, I played like the first like 3 chapters of that. This shit was sick.
Yeah, it was sick, and it was brilliantly designed in the sense that gimmick of the game, because now you got to keep her alive. You can't just be running around killing zombies. And it was a really, really tight game, really good game company. I don't know the details on what happened to them, but they apparently are folding overnight. So that is bad, because they were really, really good game company, turning out very original games. And I don't think anybody else is making games like that. Not nowadays. And that's the bad news. And the good news is, of course, the Creed trailer, the Creed 2 trailer. If you haven't seen it, go see it. It like resurrected all my 80s feelings. And it's pretty awesome. I thought it was pretty awesome. So go check that out. And that's really all I got for Tabletop Market Watch.
On that game, that Walking Dead game was so sick because like they made you make those decisions, right? Like it wasn't like other role-playing games where like you can kind of like skirt around decision making to farm renown and XP and shit like that. Mm-hmm. Shit was going down and consequences you were living with. Like,
yeah, and it had a timer and it would count down, and you had a certain amount of time to make this decision.
Yeah,
and then at the
and indecisiveness was its own decision. You know, like
at the end of every chapter, it would tell you how everybody else who played the game did. Like, did you make the same decision that everyone else made, or did you go your own way? And the Game of Thrones one was also seriously real. Like, it was just like, oh wow. This is brutal. It puts you right in the midst of everything, and it was really cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. Sad to hear that. That happened to one of my other favorite game companies, Silicon Knights. They made some of the best games of all fucking time, in my opinion, and that happened to them too. Like overnight, we have like 20 employees left. Like, that sucks.
And
THQ.
Yeah.
So Rob, you want to lead us in a discussion about what's going on with Wizards of the Coast?
Yeah. So speaking of Magic, the Gathering, and game store, so slowly but surely, it is becoming very hard to be a game store owner. From all the shrinking margins and all the things, brick and mortar retail is always becoming more and more precarious. But lately, Wizards of the Coast, obviously a source of much income for your local game store in some regard. If they sell games, they're probably selling the majority of it Magic for tabletop or for card games, right? So Magic in July basically got rid of their direct sales to stores. So stores had to start relying on distributors. And this was kind of a planned thing for a couple of months. So there's a couple of approved distributors, I think 6 of them here in the States. So that was fine. And, Wizards would dole out the boxes to the booster boxes, a supply of Magic cards to those distributors. And those distributors would then sell it to the game stores. And everything was fine.
Rob, at this point, now that you had to go through a distributor versus the manufacturer, was there already a profit loss at that point?
There was a little bit, but see, at the time, like, people weren't really sure what was going to happen because you have a supply and demand thing, right? Like, where is Wizards going to send out their supply of Magic card boxes? Are they going to send them to the distributors? Are they going to give them to somewhere else? Are they going to hold them back for direct sales? Like, what is Wizards doing? And nobody knew what Wizards was doing.
Just to recap, so right out the gate, now you if you can't go to the manufacturer, you have to go to distribution, you lose profit right out the gate.
Correct. That's what distribution, for everybody that isn't familiar with business. Distribution is, quote, the middleman. It is the person that the manufacturer sells stuff to and then sells it to the retail store. That's your middle. Sometimes there's many middlemen. That's the middleman. And every time you hit somebody in between the manufacturer and your store shelf, you're paying higher prices for things, right? So generally, most stores can get a box of Magic cards, or used to be able to, for about $75. That isn't every store, and that's based on quantity and sales and relationships and things like that. But, most stores can get it for easy 80, sometimes a little bit more on the fly, whatever, from secondary distros. Boxes would sell on, release day for 100, 115. It's already kind of a losing proposition, but it gets people in the door. They buy sodas, they buy stacks, they buy singles, they buy sleeves, they buy all that other stuff.
I was going to say the singles market, the trade-in market is huge, but you still need to provide them with the means, right?
Right. It's kind of starts getting to that loss leader standpoint, to where you're getting close to losing money just by having something, just by getting people in your store. So that's what that term means, basically, in a nutshell. So you're getting to that point where you're like, let me think. So I have to sell 4 of these boxes to afford to rebuy 1 whole box of cards to then resell 4 more of those to rebuy. It's not, the math isn't good on that. Those are called margins. So now where we are right now is, so everybody didn't know what was going on. They're like, well, if Wizards floods the market to distro, well, we'll get stuff cheaper because the distributors will be fighting amongst themselves to get my store's business. So that's good. But if Wizards tightens up the supply, then the price goes up to game stores and they have to pay more. And that could put, a little bit of a strain on them, because if you're not packing out, selling each pack out of the box for $3 to $4, generally it's around $4, which 4 times 36 is, I believe, $144, if I'm not mistaken. You make more money packing out a complete box, right? Just people come in buying packs out of the box. But when you sell a whole box, it used to go for about 100 to 110, give or take, at a local game store. So now where we're at today is Wizards was like, no, we're going to go to distro. It's cool. Then Wizards came out with a couple other things. They're like, hey, we're going to do this exclusive thing where we put exclusive boxes of these same cards on our site, except for you're going to get 8 of those packs in the box. You're going to get special alternate art, full art, foil Planeswalker cards, guys. This is dope. And yeah, they look good. And yeah, they're cool. And there's some desirable cards, some different formats, whatever. Long story short, you can get that new box of cards 3 days early. Not Wizards site, but Hasbro site. Hasbro owes Wizards. You can go to Hasbro Toys, pick up that box 3 days early. Then when game stores get their boxes for general release, $249.99. And you're probably like, okay, all right, it's more. It comes with some stuff. That's cool. Some exclusives. All right, kind of cool. But here's what Wizards just did. They just cut out the middleman. You come to them for that product. There is no loss of margin for Wizards. They manufacture it. They retail it. Their costs are shipping, which you may pay in some regard, depending on how they have their website set up. All right, cool. There's some exclusives. Cool. Then events. There's a little bit of a downturn in events. They've had some missteps. So one of the major retailers of Magic cards, also event promoter for Grand Prix, they're similar to our GTs for Warhammer 40K, says, hey, we need some exclusives too, dog. We got to get people to come to our events. It's good. We'll build the community. We'll keep doing our thing. And Wizards like, that's new. All right, cool. Yeah, we'll try it. Here's some exclusives to get people. They can only get them from coming to your events, your big events, regional events. All right, cool. So Wizards puts out this post. They're like, hey, guys, we're experimenting. We're experimenting with how we sell stuff, how we're going to be doing things going forward. And this is the kind of the progression of these events occurring, right? And people are like, what does that mean? That's a really weird thing to say. I don't know what that's all about. And then all of a sudden, Magic card boxes started appearing on Amazon, retailed through Magic the Gathering for $95.
Yeah, that's a problem.
So
hold on. So now I can go on Amazon Prime, free shipping, 2 days. Get it for about $20 less than the store. And simultaneously, and so my big first question to you would be like, so if Magic makes X amount of quantity, as the manufacturer, how many does Amazon get and how many do stores get?
Right. So that's the question. If you're Hasbro, Wizards, whatever brand you want to say right now, what part do you send to Amazon, Target, and Walmart? Because now you are getting around the middleman. You're not sending it to distro. You send it direct to them and they retail it, which means you get to keep more of that money per unit. And we're not talking thousands of units here, folks. We're not talking like, for instance, the Kill Team box that sold out at Games Workshop. There was 36,000 of those worldwide. 36,000. Do the math. There were what? 150. There's about a mil or so generated there, right? 36,000. We're not talking thousands of units here, thousands of booster boxes. We're talking way more than that. And if Wizards now gets to keep that margin for themselves, they have just literally overnight increased their profits. But here's the thing. They have made the experience for the customer, the ultimate end user and the customer. It seems like they have made it easier for them to get a unified product description and purchase one thing. They always know what they're buying. They always know where to get it. It's always the same thing. And let's face it, one of those 3 stores is always close to them. So the end user experience, the customer, it's good. It's not like, they raise the prices on all their products 20% overnight. And they're like, no, it's cool because
one to one. So like on,
right,
without taking any other consideration into this story. Yeah. I play Magic. My Magic cards are cheaper and easier to get. And they're probably always going to be in stock because Amazon, right? Forget Walmart and Target. It's literally going to be about Amazon. People already have Amazon Prime. It's going to be Amazon. And the reason this is relevant to us as a 40K podcast, which we talked about briefly in the webcast, and Rob being a very successful, owned a very successful brick and mortar, is that the number one across the board, not every store, there's exceptions, but the number one major reason fucking game stores can keep the lights on so that we can pursue the passions of tabletop wargaming is because of the money exchanging hands, because of CCGs, predominantly at the top of that pack, Magic the Gathering. And if that margin is affected negatively, if people are, and you can't be mad at people for wanting to get a deal. Like you're talking about, like, I save $20 every time I do this. Fuck. And I already bought $100 a year fucking subscription to Amazon Prime. Can't even get mad at me. Right. But that happens enough times. What happens to these game stores? How many of them start folding? How many of them have to start, basically not caring about tabletop miniatures anymore? You know what I mean? Like Rob has mentioned it. 40K is way more expensive and you move less product, but there's more margins. But it also takes up 1,000% more space in your store.
The retail space for miniatures gaming is huge.
Yeah.
Same with board gaming, takes up a lot of space.
It's not like you can't fit 6 people in the same. I showed the diagram earlier. A 4x6 table, effectively with the space necessary needed to actually put people around it, is basically 10x10. So you can't fit in that same 10x10 space. You can fit a lot more Magic players at a table playing games across from each other than you can miniature games. So that parallel aside, Wizards in some regards is smart by what they're doing, because they know that if people want to play, they still have to seek out those game stores. In actuality, the only people that, could have a problem with this or could be affected financially are the game store owners themselves or people selling stuff online in a way that they don't approve of. And I'm sure this has a lot to do with that as well. I don't know the intricacies of that, unfortunately, so I can't speak to it. But I can tell you that overnight, like we saw with the Forge Roll thing, although they did it differently, they just raised prices and they said, eat crow. This is a little bit different because Wizards, everything's still in place. No prices went up for the consumer. But the problem is that now game stores have to contend with that, kind of. Yeah,
it's almost the opposite, almost like straight opposite what Forge Roll did. It's actually end game cheaper for the consumer and more profit for the company who makes them simultaneously. Because we're not talking about game stores, we're talking about Wizards of the Coast. So simultaneously, they're making more money and it's cheaper for the user. So it's a literal fucking opposite of what the Forge World thing, but with the dire consequence, because the Forge World thing has literally nothing to do with game stores. It has literally no fucking effect on friendly local game stores. This is just I'm a fucking crack addict and my goddamn resin's too expensive. This actually, honestly, it was just fun to talk about for news. The Forge World thing has actually no negative impact on our fucking hobby. This potentially does.
It could, because you have to go, local game stores. Not everybody has the room to have a 4x6 table in their house. A game store is basically a bar for nerds, and it's a very intricate part of the Warhammer hobby, or the tabletop hobby, where there's two hobbies, obviously, but so it's very important to us. So, these card games are a very important source of income. Now, most game stores, if they're doing it right and they're checking all the boxes, they're building community, they're doing all the great stuff, they're having all the releases, they're doing everything that Wizards wants, for their Play Network, which I'm not even sure exists anymore, then they'll probably, for the most part, be unaffected. But it is something to be aware of, because companies out there are actively looking for ways to increase profits, because they're beholden to their shareholders, by doing the least amount of work. And we've seen it now in two major games over the past, couple of months, and we're going to see.
And Wizards, they're like a super entity. They're
owned by Hasbro.
They're a super entity, and so and it's hard to predict what's actually going to happen, but it is worth mentioning. People say this all the time. Support, like Hasbro brings this up, like support Barnes and Nobles. Support your local, your brick and mortars. Like, as much as it's an insanity. I buy almost everything on Amazon, right? But I still try to make time every time I go to my local G store, even though I don't have to, because I know I can get it for cheaper, faster now somewhere else. I try to do something, not just because I know me buying this paint from them isn't going to fucking help them keep the lights on, realistically. But it's like the act over and over again with everyone around me. I even always try to make I was like, hey, thanks for running this tournament. And then I'll notice 3 other people will go buy something, right? Think about it like that from that perspective. Be the community leaders. Make sure the places you go to play don't get fucked by this.
Yeah,
especially if you play Magic, And
I just want to drop a little quick math real quick on some people, because a lot of folks, like Kenny just said, hey, I'll buy a paint or I'll buy a soda. I do contribute. Well, and I'm not trying to cheapen your efforts to support your choice to support your local game store. But I did a quick schematic earlier. A 4x6 table takes up about 100 square feet of space, because you figure you need an extra 3 on the top and bottom, and an extra 2 feet on each side. So that's about 10 square feet, or 10 feet on each side. So it's about 100 square feet total. Assuming that your game store has a decent rent, and we're talking, by decent, I mean you're not in the best location, but you're not in the worst. You're probably around $13 a square foot. I'm just going to throw that out there. That's an average. It's obviously higher in a lot of metro areas, depending on where you're at. So $13 a square foot, 100 square feet, you're talking $1,300. That's per year. So you divide that out by 12, you're about $110 a month. $110 a month for rent for that 4x6 game table. To pay for that 4x6 game table, $110 in rent, your profit on a pot of paint from Games Workshop at $4.25 is, we'll just call it $2. So how many per table you have to sell? How many pots of paint?
Man, you got to sell at least 3 boxes of Tooth and Claw. Or 2 boxes. You have
to sell a lot of stuff, and that's assuming the game store just has one game table, and most have more. So obviously right off the bat, it's very harder to cover those costs of having a game table in a store than a 4x6, it's not even 4x6, it's like 3x6 folding game table that can fit 8 Magic players at it.
And I remember yours used to have 120 people there on Friday night, and the tables, you only had enough tables set up for 40 people day in, day out, and the rest of the tables were in the back. And when you break them out for Friday, that's the power.
Everything's modular. Yeah.
The power of Magic is on Fridays we are 120 Magic players, but the rest of the week we're balanced.
Yep.
But if it wasn't for Magic, there wouldn't be a store.
Yep. So just keep an eye out for these things. We know there's going to be a lot more. Wizards is experimenting. There's a lot of things going on with Wizards. We don't know the whole story, but we know there's going to be more things that are going to be challenging for your game store owner. So please, buy where you play as much as you can. I'm not trying to put a strain on anybody, but be aware that these are real issues
Let me make it easy for you. If you were used to dropping $115 for this box, just keep doing that.
Seriously,
just keep doing it, man. Because it's just a very small fee for you. It's not even a fee. It's like, I could save this $20, or I could just keep spending exactly the same amount of money, and it's no loss to me, and maybe everyone else will, and maybe we have a store still.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing saying that you can't pay more for product. But anyways, just something to be aware of out there in the local right. Game store scene.
Well, let's get a commercial break going so we can come back and talk about Basegate. I know Haspel has a lot to say about this as a prolific hobbyist and modeler.
Yeah.
Finally, the Long War swag is here. LongWarSwag.com, the official home of Long War merchandise. We've got a range of merchandise exclusive to the Long War brand, Next Level Painting, and Spikey Bits. Definitely log in today while supplies lasts. Veterans, I've got news for you. Get your best deals online at dicehead.com. Long War Vets, call or email for your best vet deals. That's dicehead.com. elricshobbies.com is your exclusive portal to upgrading your hobby. When you sign up at thelongwar.net, you gain an instant promotional discount good for 10% off at Elric's Hobbies. elricshobbies.com.
Dear veterans, quickly, make your way to thelongwar.net and find out how to reap your hard-earned spoils of this long war. For our allies at secretweaponsminiatures.com have rewarded us all with an extra 10% discount on all Secret Weapon Miniatures merchandise. So stock up, dear veterans, and enjoy.
And we're back. I feel like if you just add gate to the end of anything, it makes it scandalous. So, Basegate scandal. Haspel.
Yeah. So at Warhammer Citadel in Texas, they have said that you can't use third-party bases when you play in their store, which I can completely understand them saying, you can't use third-party models. I mean, it is Games Workshop store, so I can understand them saying, hey, we're going to enforce that all your models here have to be Games Workshop models. That makes sense, right? But a base is like, they don't sell finished bases, they don't sell textured bases, they just sell little plastic round things. That's it.
Oh, my favorite part, Haspel, though, is that they actually do sell those new plastic bases that are straight garbage.
Yep.
Oh, they do. You're right.
But remember, this is all taken from the context of the Facebook page when responding to people trying to be in compliance on the Citadel Facebook page. Hey, I'm going to come to Citadel this weekend. What I got to do to make everyone happy? These are people trying to be in compliance. Hey, by the way, my entire army is based on this fresh kind of like cracked ice effect. And then the flippant responses from the social media team, I don't know if it's the manager or whoever, being like, oh, well, just make sure that you made those bases and you didn't buy them. And then people's response being like, I literally just bought like 5,000 of the GW stuff. Now you're mad at me because I bought $30 in resin base or somebody else. And then the response being, and I did throw this up on my Facebook page as actually a creative ad for Secret Weapon Miniatures. Response being something like, well, we're always looking for an excuse to start a new army.
Yeah. And
that's what triggered me. Like that triggered me.
Because I'm like, those of you guys who have watched like 2 years ago when I was making our display for Adepticon, I built stuff from scratch, and I made molds and I cast stuff and everything. And I built the whole, cathedral that we were doing with the floor and everything using green stuff and everything. It's like it's not that hard to do. If you have the skill set to do it, you can make your own bases. But I'm literally, if I was going to go play at the Citadel, right now, I would not be able to play any of my armies except one, and that's unsat. So I think I would just roll up in there and then ask them to prove that I didn't make those bases.
Haspel.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but we're always looking for an excuse to start a new army. Just give me like $4,000 more, bro.
Yeah, I don't know. I just
start a new army. I don't understand the problem here.
I think that was a major faux pas. I think you'll see them walk that back.
And but here's the thing. I did talk to Wyatt Turk. He's out there in Texas and stuff. And he said, hey, people actually walked in with secret weapon bases and no one said shit. Right? And he's
they
like,
might not be able to tell or whatever.
That makes it worse. That means the people who are like, fuck it, say something. They're the one that they're getting away with it. And the people who are actually super diehard GW people who are trying to go out there and be excited to go on their big trip to Warhammer Disney World in fucking United States, which is,
yeah, that's pretty much it.
A big fucking deal for them, right?
You're gonna go make your Hajj to the Citadel.
Yeah. They're like, oh, I'm gonna travel there. Let's make sure I'm fucking in compliance because I love GW. And it's like, go start a new army, son. Right? So yeah, it does make me sad. It makes me sad for many reasons that they would. It's a blunder. It's a fucking blunder.
I fully expect them to walk that back. I fully expect them to.
Well, they started saying something about like, hey, come in and we'll discuss it in person now. And because people are like going on there and trolling them like, hey, I painted my models with army painter paint. Is that cool if I like bring them there? And it's
no. Strip them.
It's like
someone brought up army painter grass actually. And they were like, no. I read through a lot of these. I got triggered for about 4 hours at about 2 a.m. a couple days ago and made a series of ads that showed like the exact cracked ice that they were referencing from a tutorial of mine where I took Desert Basin from Secret Weapon Miniatures and repurposed it into cracked ice. Right. Mm-hmm. I just put that up there. Right. And then I was like, hey, this isn't Secret Weapon. I made these. But of course I linked it on a Secret Weapon. I did one for Pop Goes the Monkey with a fresh shoulder pad. Like, you know what I mean? I was like, come on, man. Like, and there's actually a quarterly manager meeting that's happening in Texas. Happened yesterday, the day before yesterday. They do these every quarter. They do them in person. They don't do them on email, which means they talk about things they don't want.
That is very wise.
They talk about things in these meetings that they don't want emails to get around on. Right.
And don't also document anything.
And also you put people, the only reason you put your managers in a room is to also gauge their response, like with body language and everything. So I imagine this was brought up. And I believe, and I think Rob agrees with me on this, I believe it's just a test. I believe it's 100% on purpose. I believe they said, go hard. Let's see what happens. And then they saw that the community said no, because GW has expressed that they are coming back to run official GTs. And they want to see what they need to do with their old original policy of what was the 75% GW model on a conversion.
Yeah, the old policy was something.
I think it was 50%.
I think it was 50%. Yeah.
And so I think they're trying to see what they can get away with in going into 2019 season. And I think there was just a test. And I think 100% they're going to roll it back. They're going to be test failed. We can't go that hard. No big deal. No harm, no foul. It just shows you though, like, I mean, it made me feel bad. It made me feel so fucking angry. Like,
it's so cringy too. They're like, hold the hobby hostage like that. Like it's like the stuff we talked about earlier. Like I have in my hand here, the tube, it's like a little small container of Vallejo ground texture. It's pumice, as most people call it. I think they rebranded it, but it's 200 milliliters. This thing's $8 from Miniature Market, $12 on Amazon, right? Or you can get the GW texture paint pot that's $8 for 24 milliliters. Like that's a difference of a factor of 10. Like there's no comparison here. Like you can't tell me what I based my stuff with. This stuff's literally almost the same in a lot of cases. So, at the end of the day, you can't hold the hobby hostage. The hobby is bigger than Warhammer in general. Just like
I would correct you on that. I was like, you can do whatever the fuck you want. It's your goddamn company. But I would advise you not to make moves that make it appear that you're holding this community hostage.
Yeah.
And if you value my opinion whatsoever, I would strongly advise against that, sir. You know what I mean?
In your store, you have every right to say whatever. Sure. But saying stuff like this does not look good Because what's next? Are you going to scratch and sniff my paint? Are you going to scrape off some of my resin to see like my authentic, if my stuff's authentic? Like,
I've actually heard of people suggesting that to start enforcing China cast.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's insane, but it could get to that point.
I don't know.
I can just say, like, I'm pretty level-headed, but on something like, let's just for a moment imagine that I made the pilgrimage down there to play, and I show up with my Space Wolves or something that's based on third-party bases, and they tell me I can't play in the store with it. I would be done. That would be something that I could imagine myself just going, you know what? I don't need to play this hobby anymore. I'm going to go play Infinity or something else. I'm done.
Yeah, that's actually how I felt about it for a brief moment, right? For sure. Like it's especially when you look at your models, like Haspel is a true hobby maniac, and he's got all these fresh ass, like, you know, Skyborn models mixed in with his Thunderwolves on these, like, was it Micro Art Studio bases from back in the day?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, damn, this shit is so fucking fresh. So what if people are like, damn, where'd you get those bases? It's still like gonna get photographed and put on websites all around the world, man. Like, it's just free advertising. Like, GW, I mean, and they figure these things out slowly, but I honestly think that they wanted to make an American Warhammer Worlds and then throw a couple of these rules on it to take a look at what would happen. So there'd be no, because people are referencing the Nottingham store saying they don't enforce that. So like, hey, we're safe. It's not us, it's them, right? And a lot of people are, hey, it's not GW. A lot of people are defending GW. It's this manager, trying to throw this manager into the bus. I'm like, well, I'm not 100% sure. He's the guy responding to all your Facebook posts. You know, so there's a lot of, like, you know, misdirection in this whole story. And that to me always piques my interest in, like, there might be something else going on here. Like just a test bed, you know? But
yeah, I mean, you could definitely make that argument for sure. It's just hard to say, like, at this point, but we can definitely be like, hey, look at this. Like, this could be a dangerous precedent. You know, and it's a sore spot too, because remember, they just changed the base sizes. Everybody had their Marines and stuff on 25 mils. And they're like, oh, by the way, 32 looks so much fresher. Rebase your minis.
I mean, they did a lot of marketing to convince us 32s looked a lot fresher and 30s looked a lot fresher. They did a lot of marketing.
Yeah.
Be like, it had nothing to do with the fact they want you to buy, not buy third-party bases.
No, and even then, I just bought those adapters. Like, I rebased my entire Grey Knight army, but I didn't rebase them. I just grabbed those adapters and threw my 25 mils in there. So that they're legal, you know. But, you know,
and it's funny, I did talk to Reese recently. I sent him that screenshot, and I was like, you're not doing this shit. He was like, dog, that shit is so silly. I was like, we're not doing this for LVO, are we? He was, no. He was like, we are not, don't worry. He's like, this is preposterous. So, like, you know, there are lines being drawn, and there's only so far you can push around some of your influencers you've hired, GW.
Yeah, for sure.
But I feel like Basegate, you've seen the articles. I think an article is dropping tomorrow on Spikey Bits, or probably today if you're hearing this podcast right now on Thursday.
Yeah, if you want to see those bases that
triggered GW.
Citadel, the Warhammer Citadel so bad, well, now is your chance to check out the tutorial, probably over on Spikey Bits right now.
All right, well, let's close this bitch out. I feel like this is one of the most grown-up editions of the podcast, outside of the a lot of sexual innuendos at the beginning. I forgot about that.
Look, I eat things the way I eat things. God made me.
So we got all of our childish shit out right out the gate. It was like that Family Guy episode where they're like, they're going to go win a fucking Emmy. And they're like, all right, do it all now. They all just start throwing up and shitting themselves for like 2 minutes. We did that. And then I think we had a really adult series of conversations. So let's bring it back around to some wild speculations. Let's do a FAQ speculation, but let's do it differently than we've done it. We've done like 3 of these now because GW is taking so fucking long to get us our goddamn FAQ. I'm fucking losing my mind in my Beats Lab making these lists, but I'm like, what if the FAQ is? Let's do a segment called Biggest FAQ Fears. Not, you know what I mean? Like what I'm afraid of. Like.
Okay. I can get on board with that.
Yeah. I want to go first.
Go first, Rob.
All right, my biggest fear is that they actually go after the Castellan, which I don't feel like is the big problem. I feel like it's the combo parts to that list that's the issue. The Castellan's such a cool kit, you know. I mean, granted, I think most of my lists won't run a Castellan, even though I have one. You saw me.
I was actually going to ask you that. I was like, let's put some guidelines on our fears. Give me your fear, but also your motivation.
I just think
is your motivation because you play it, which is fine, or just because you think of the hobby in general?
I think it's bad for the hobby in general because I feel like, and from what we saw at Nova with Robin Curtis there, I don't get the feeling, and I may be wrong, I don't know the intricacies of the studio. I feel like there might just be one person in charge of rules, which I hope isn't the case. They need a team. They need a panel, for instance, in charge of these, in charge of 40K in general. It's a college level class. You have to get a degree in 40K to masters. None of us get it right. Hell, I can't even add up points correctly to play Age of Sigmar. But besides the case, besides the point, I don't feel like nerfing the kill condition of a very popular army is the right way to go. To reference Magic the Gathering, they usually attack the parts of the combo and not the kill condition itself. So if they go after the Castellan, I feel like they have a weak if this is coming from GW and not from, the playtest team and all of them who I have more confidence in than actual GW rules writers themselves, I feel like it's a very bad precedent, and I feel like they don't have a firm grasp on what is actually happening at the competitive level of 40K. So that's why I don't want to see the Castellan.
I like that you mentioned that. So yours actually rolls right into mine because you said, let's not nerf the kill condition, let's nerf the combo. And obviously, I think we've harped on that a little bit, that the combo is CP farming for the most part. Mm-hmm. Like, we can talk about other things like bodies, points adjustments. The fucking combo is CP generation. Stacking dice rolls to make every CP practically free or buy one, get one free in some situations. Because one of the CP farming doesn't say you can't go over, so you can technically generate more. CP farming is actually the combo. That goes into my biggest fear. My biggest fear is that GW at this point is very aware that CP farming needs to be adjusted. My fear is that they only heard the word CP in that statement. CP needs to get adjusted. CP, they keep hearing that over and over again. Well, GW, for some reason, it is a fear of mine through observation. For some reason, even though this is just a bunch of written words, they find it really difficult to change those words, right? And sometimes they get convoluted in the way they try to fix things. Not always. Sometimes they make really classy FAQ changes. Like when the Storm Raven was a problem and everyone had 1 billion flyers, they didn't change the points. They didn't make it less good. They made it exactly as deadly. They said that flyers don't count for the purposes of getting tabled. If you have 5 flyers and fucking 6 units and 15 scouts, and I kill you 15 scouts, you're tabled, son. That was classy. You didn't make it less good. You didn't make it more points. You changed the battlefield role. That's a good example of positively a classy way of doing it. My problem or my fear is that GW is going to hear CP. Well, okay, CP farming is a problem, so why don't we just make it less CPs? Why don't we just roll back the beta FAQ? Because in the beta FAQ, that's why battalions are worth 5 CPs now. My fear is that they're not gonna adjust the relics and the warlord shades that are generating the CP. They're going to go after what has given us so many CPs to begin with. That's a fear of mine. Motivation being, I'm making a lot of armies that are relying on battalions now more than spearheads and auxiliary detachments or little outrider detachments. I'm making these triple battalion lists so I can get all these CPs because I don't have CP farming and I want to have fucking CPs and do stratagems with. So my personal motivation is I want to fucking play with these stratagems and not having access to these CP farms. I feel like GW might swing that pendulum, address the CP number, not the farming issue. That's a fear and that's a motivation. But I do want to address, Jordan Jr. said something, I scrolled it in chat. He knows me. He's like 6-point cultists and they lose Heretic Astartes. Dog, wasn't even in the back of my mind until you said that. That ruins fundamentally so many of my army lists as a personal motivator. Cultists have the Hereticus Astartes keyword, which means they have access to a vast variety of stratagems that only are accessible through that keyword. If they lose that keyword, they are a bunch of bullshit unit models that don't do anything. Like, they can't shoot twice. They can't get +1 to wound. Nothing. Like, they're just hobos walking around dying, not killing anything. So, yes. Shout out to Jordan Jr. That now is my biggest fear suddenly. Speaking of my fucking heart. But CPs, man. GW, CP farming, not CPs. And Haspel must have a fear.
Well, I would go into the CP farming too, but I want to even go more extreme than that. I don't think you should be able to regen CPs at all. Because not everyone can do it. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of like, just get rid of that and then make CPs apply just to that portion of the army. I think that would go a long way to fixing a lot of what I find wrong with the game. But that's not my fear. That's kind of a hope, right? My fear is that they would keep the deep strike beta rules. Because that makes 2 of my armies unplayable. So, well, not unplayable, but certainly, gonna get tabled by turn 2 or 3. You know what I mean? Like, don't bring them, put them on the table if you want to do anything. So that's really grim. And I'm like, no, you should be able to deep strike. I didn't like that when they did the beta rules for it, and I honestly didn't know why they did that. Of all the problems that the game had, that they were like, hey, we're going to fix this, I don't think deep striking was one of those problems. Like, I don't know why they picked on it. I don't know why they chose that. It's
GW has that fucked up flowchart, remember, where they think that assaulting is always stronger than shooting?
Yeah, I'm like, shooting is a real problem. And it's not just shooting, it's the buffs that people stack onto shootings. Like, the -1, the re-rolling the wounds, the +1 to wound, stuff like that. That's what's ruinous. Deep striking 9 inches away. Do you know how many charges I failed for that?
Yep.
And with guys that could re-roll charges. Like, that's not even a problem. So when they did that, that was a huge surprise to me. And I'm really, really hoping that they're just like, don't keep that. If you're going to get rid of one of the beta rules, it should be that.
I could not agree with you more. It's funny though. I want to say this. Your hope, you started with, that's not a fear, that's a hope. Your hope is one of my actual fears.
I know it's messed up.
One of my fears is that they restrict CP usage to a detachment, right? And I only fear it because I am back to the drawing board. I don't fear it because I think the game would be worse. Honestly, I think the game would be very balanced if it would be a completely different game though.
And here's why. I guess I have an alternative motivation behind why I want to see CPs stick to a detachment versus to a side, right? And it's because I'm tired of seeing, and granted, I haven't played in months.
You're a monolith.
This could not be a thing. But I'm tired of seeing somebody run the same stupid guard detachment just to get CPs. Like, everybody's running the same guard detachment just to get CPs.
No, and I agree with you. That's why I say it's a fear because it's a selfish fear. It's a fear for me because I'm like, fuck, that doesn't work for me. I need these little clutch ass detachments, right? And I need to have a pool of CP so I can do this combo over here the way I'm playing now. I'm back to the drawing board for a couple months while I figure some shit out, but I do think it's actually not bad for the game at all. I think as a balancing issue, I think it's actually pretty good. The reason I just don't believe GW will do it because I think they have identified how much money they make selling, little guard battalions and shit.
Yeah, and somebody was bringing up in the chat, and I would be for this, as an alternative to, let's say they keep the beta deep strike, right? That if you're naked deep striking, you got to deep strike next to your own boys, which would fluffily, you can kind of make that make sense going, hey, your own guys are the ones that have the, the teleport homers or whatever. And it's less risky for you to deep strike among your own troops, right? But then make the drop pods able to deep strike closer to 9 inches. Because right now there's zero reason to spend 80 points on a drop pod. Why? To just get got? You know what I mean? Because that's all that's going to happen. You're just going to get got.
Agreed. Yeah, drop pod needs to, we talked about that. Drop pod needs to be closer than fucking 9 inches.
Yeah.
And the guys need to be able to get out as well and charge. Yeah, fuck your shit up.
Yeah.
No, and it's crazy because it's like, I think that after listening to you talk for a second, I'm like, well, my fears are more like, because I think of the game the way we play it now. It's interesting because the game would be unofficially season 2 if they implemented CP detachment usage in the FAQ.
You're right. It's a big change.
It's literally season 2. And now that I think about it, I have no problem with us going into season 2. Like, tell us it's season 2. The game is now taking its first major shift in the way we use stratagems, which is the name of the game. It is going to start promoting bigger, like, battalions and more mono stuff, right? I think that'd actually be pretty interesting for the game.
And if you're looking at it that way, then it's not going to be in the FAQ. It'll be in chapter approved. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like because it is, you're right though. When you bring that up, I'm like, no, that is a bigger change than I think it is. You know what I mean? So it's not going to be in the FAQ.
Right. So actually that's interesting. That conversation brought us to that conclusion. There is no fucking way that's going to be in the fucking fall FAQ. If that happens, that's a chapter proof because that is a new season. That is 8.5, or maybe even 9. That is straight up next game system.
Yeah. That's very different. And currently the stratagems aren't really built for that.
No, the stratagems completely have to be redesigned. Keyword overhaul, everything. Like, how many points? I mean, obviously basic, how many points are they to use? Second, keyword overhaul.
Yeah.
I don't see in 2019, I don't see a reboot of the game. I think we have a Space Marine 2.0 second edition codex on the way. That I may have a little bit of insides on that, but the big thing is that I don't think we're getting an edition reboot. I mean, they don't have to. Like I said a year ago, they got the chapter proofs and stuff coming out. I was really taken aback by Age of Sigmar getting an edition reboot, but to be honest, it probably needed it. To be honest, like just to get it back, they kind of fumbled the ball. They tried to patch it, but now it's like
Sigmar did, but I don't think 40K does.
No,
it doesn't need it. It needs some tweaks.
Mm-hmm.
But Sigmar was, because they fumbled it out of the gate and then tried to patch it. It was just best to just put out a new edition.
Yeah.
No doubt. And this is and to be clear, this is our biggest fear section because we've done several predictions. Like this is oh my God, this is crazy if they do this section, right? There are lots of things that need to get addressed. Lots of hopes. We've gone over it. You can go back to our backlogs. We have wild speculations, FAQ prediction episodes. We cover a lot of these things like fly keyword. Oh my God, what about, all these things. So this is just a fear. We expect, honestly, this FAQ to be out by the time you're hearing this. Right? Like I expect this FAQ to happen.
Oh yeah.
And that makes sense.
Ready. My body is ready.
News has been kind of slow. I mean, everything right now is Nightfall, which is dope.
Which Haspel predicted, hey, this thing's called Warhammer Underworld. It's not Shadespire.
But yeah.
Night Vault, the crime solving vault.
That's right. The crime solving vault. But yeah, it's all about that right now. And I think there's a big gap between now and probably the first, I'm going to say the second week in October, but it'll be the first weekend of October.
Well, the good news is that all of the White Dwarf comes out next week. So all the spoilers, people are going to start getting pictures out of the White Dwarf as they show up at their houses. And we're going to start seeing what's on the cover, etc. GW has said that Speed Freaks would be out before the actual main orc book itself too. So, and that there would be additional kits and things as well. So it's going to be definitely a lot of hype. I can't say that they're not following the patterns they followed in the past. And with September, it's pretty much proceeding as normal as we've seen in the past 3 years or so, and with regards to what they have coming out and what they reveal in September's for the rest of the year.
Before we close this episode out, which we're about right there, Rob dropping nonstop insight on us. Last thing I feel like needs to be said. I've been seeing Fly come up in the chat a lot. Bear Tiger Evil Laugh says, what does Fly need that doesn't mess it up entirely? I will say this as my last piece on the FAQ. Fly, the ignoring everything, basically teleporting part of Fly, restrict it to the movement phase. That's it. You don't get the benefits of Fly teleport once you left the fight phase. I mean, once you left the movement phase. Therefore, you can't heroically intervene Fly. You can't charge Fly. You can't consolidate Fly. You can't pile in Fly. Let it just be a activate Fly, land. Now we're fighting. Like, don't let it be like I'm literally a teleporting fucking Nightcrawler entity that all over the fucking place all day, every day. Because currently that's the way it plays. You're fucking Nightcrawler.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, Rob, I'm done. You do whatever you're going to do.
That's all I got, man. Hassel, take us out of here.
Well, I've been with the best and I've beat the best. I've retired more men than Social Security.